Hey, what is up, everybody? It's good to see you guys. I am stoked because it is December. There's a lot to love about December, but one thing I think we can all agree on that we love about this month is that December is the month that we celebrate Christmas. Ooh, I'm excited. And I bet you guys, even if you haven't been looking at your calendars or anything, you've probably noticed Christmas is coming up. I mean, you go into the stores and they're playing Christmas music and selling decorations. As you drive around, you might kind of see people setting up all their Christmas stuff in their front yard. And of course, those Christmas lights that we see everywhere. They're up on trees, they're in houses. Some of you guys might even have them set up at home right now. I love Christmas lights. Have you guys ever drove to one of those neighborhoods where they are just decked out with Christmas lights, where they just go the extra mile? Maybe some of you guys even live in a neighborhood like that. That might be pretty cool. Or maybe just a lot of work. I don't know. But it's fun driving through those. There are some great Christmas light displays that we see around this time of year, but they are nowhere near as impressive as the kind of light that we celebrate around Christmas time. After all, as I hope you guys know, Christmas is all about celebrating the birth of Jesus. Now, did you know that the Bible calls Jesus the light of the world? So when we see all these cool lights around Christmas time, they can be a reminder for us about the real reason we celebrate Christmas. Jesus, the light of the world who defeats the darkness. So, since it is Christmas time, we're going to take a break from our usual kind of week-by-week journey through the Bible that we do, and instead of that, we're going to jump back in the Bible to talk about some stuff that happened earlier. Since it is Christmas time, we're going to talk about the birth of Jesus and some of the stuff that happened around that time. So this weekend, Mr. Nathan is going to be here to teach you guys about something that happened just a little bit before Jesus was born. But before we send things over to Mr. Nathan, I want to review with you guys some of the major events in history that led up to the birth of Jesus. If you guys are in your classrooms right now, you've probably noticed that there are some pictures taped up on the walls in your room, and those are going to help us with this review. First off, take a look at the picture of the earth. Way back, a long, long time ago, God made the heavens and the earth. God made absolutely everything. And if you look at the next picture in the line, you'll see a picture of the first two humans who God made, Adam and Eve. Now, Adam and Eve lived in a paradise with God. But things got messed up when Adam and Eve decided to sin, when they decided to disobey God and do things their own way. So they were cast out of the garden, and their relationship with God was damaged. The next picture you'll see in the line is a picture of a man named Abraham. He lived sometime after Adam and Eve, and God chose Abraham to give a special promise to. God promised Abraham that he would have a ton of descendants, meaning like his kids, grandkids, and their kids, and so on and so forth. And God promised that the entire world would be blessed through Abraham's offspring. And you guys might have a guess who that offspring is. Hint, hint, we're celebrating him in Christmas. The next picture you'll see in line is a picture of Moses, the man who God chose to lead the Israelites, his chosen people, out of the land of Egypt where they were slaves. Now, next in line, you'll see King Solomon, one of the great kings of Israel who lived quite a while after Moses. Solomon was an incredibly wise man, the wisest man to ever live. But even though he was so wise, later in his life, he started to make a lot of really bad choices, and those choices had big consequences for the kingdom of Israel. Next up in line, you will see a picture of some of the prophets who we learn about in the Bible. Prophets were people who God used to teach people. God would give the prophets messages, and these prophets would usually share them with other people so that they could learn and improve. But they didn't always listen to the prophets. In fact, a lot of the time, they didn't listen to the prophets. Well, last in line, you'll see a picture of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a man who God sent to help rebuild the walls of Jerusalem after they had been broken down during an invasion. Now, those pictures are just a small few of the major events in history that led up to what we're talking about today. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about something with Mr. Nathan that happened some hundreds of years after what we saw with Nehemiah just a moment ago. So, I'll go ahead and send things over to Mr. Nathan, and he's going to teach you guys about a couple named Zacharias and Elizabeth.
Feel the wonder, say his name, watch the darkness slip away, put your power on display, say goodbye to fear and shame. We won't stop coming after you, we won't move until you move, come and do what only you can do, come and do what only you can do. We won't stop coming after you, we won't move until you move, come and do what only you can do, come and do what only you can do.
I am so excited that it is officially the Christmas season. I was asked to tell you the story, but I'm kind of not feeling festive enough. Hold on one second. Let me grab my official Christmas jacket. There we go. Now we can talk about Christmas. All right, so I have a question for you. How many of you have ever read? Good, a lot of you. How many of you have ever read a story or a book that made you feel something? Maybe you felt scared and you went, ah! It made you scream. Or maybe you felt, hold on. Maybe you were, where did I put it? Maybe you were reading a book like this one, and you read it, and it made you go, because they're dad jokes. So sometimes you're reading things and you respond to it, you feel something. Well, that's how our story starts today, and I want you to see if you can figure out one of the specific ways one of these people was feeling and what they did. All right, so let's read. Our story starts in Luke 1, and it says this. There was in the days of Herod. Okay, for us that doesn't mean anything, but in the days of Herod, it was terrible. So when you hear that, I want you to think, dun, dun, dun. That was like nervous, afraid. He was a terrible guy, all right? He literally took out some of his own kids. But anyway, okay, so in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias, as Mr. Chris said, and his wife was Elizabeth. They were both righteous before God. They did what was right, a good thing. That's something to be happy about, to be excited about. But listen to this. They had no child because Elizabeth was barren, or because Elizabeth couldn't have any kids. And they were both well advanced in years. In other words, they were really, really old. Not like your mom and dad old, probably like your grandparents old. I'm talking old. All right? So if Elizabeth and her husband Zacharias couldn't have any kids, and they had wished for it, and they had hoped for it, how do you think that might have made them feel? Or what do you think they might have done because of that? Well, this first box over here has our answer. But before I show you the answer, I'm going to read 3 clues to see if you can guess the word that is printed on this box. Now, this word is not a feeling. It's something you do when you feel a certain way. All right? So let me give you a hint. We'll see if we can figure this out. Ready? 3 hints. The first one. This word. It's not bad, but you won't find that in heaven. All right? Now, if you know it, don't say anything. The second one. You can find this at the end of a sad movie. All right, last one. Ready? This is all wet. Any hints? Elizabeth and Zacharias, any ideas? Elizabeth and Zacharias were probably very, very sad, and they may have even cried tears. You see that? All right. But it doesn't stop there. So Luke tells us that they were old. They had tried to have kids for a long time. They couldn't. But it says one day Zacharias was at his job. And Zacharias' job was being a priest. And now Zacharias wasn't like one of a couple priests. I want you to imagine a whole stadium full of priests. All right? There were lots of them. But Luke tells us that Zacharias got the chance of a lifetime. He was chosen to offer incense, to burn the incense for that day. This was something he had probably dreamed about his whole life. Which reminds me of this second box. Did you hear what I said? I said he had the chance to offer incense. What? What is that? I'm wondering, does any one of you know what incense is? But before you answer, let's talk about it, all right? So incense would have maybe made it smell good. Incense, you often will burn it, and it smells, all right? So Zacharias wasn't doing this because he just wanted to make the place smell good. That's not why they burned incense. Burning incense was an old form of something that we do even today. They were just doing it in a different way. And it's this word. Burning incense was like us doing this. Let me give you some hints, see if you can figure it out. All right? Hint number 1 for this word. Ready? This word is all talk. Now, if you know it, don't say it. All right? So this word is all talk. Number 2, this goes straight to God. Don't say anything if you know it. This goes straight to God. All right, last clue. Ready? There's an amen at the end. I bet you know what it is. Burning incense for them would be like prayer for us. So that's what Zacharias would have been doing. He had the chance to get as close to God as anybody else at that time. He had a very special opportunity. And so we know a little bit about what would have happened. He would have carried a big metal jug, and two of the other priests would have put burning coals into the metal jug. They called it a censer. And he would have carried this into a very special place in the temple. And he was all by himself at that point. And he would have taken the top probably off the censer, off that big metal jug, and he would have poured the coals out over an altar. Then he would have taken incense, and he would have put the incense on top of those coals. And like we talked about earlier, it probably would have smelled good. But it probably also, too, would have created some smoke, right? Because if you burn something, or if something's on fire, or put it over hot coals, it could create smoke. And Luke tells us what happens next. As Zacharias is doing this, all of a sudden, he sees something. And he listens, and he hears, meow, meow. He doesn't hear a cat. I'm kidding. But he does see something. And it's our third clue. So, what does Zacharias see? I'll give you 3 hints. See if you can figure it out. Clue number 1, ready? I'm not a bird, but some of us have wings. All right, if you know it, don't say anything. All right, clue number 2. I'm like a mailman for God. Any ideas? All right, last clue. Here we go. Ready? I make my home in heaven. Did any of you guess? An angel? That's what shows up to Zacharias. And the angel says, Zacharias, your prayers have been answered. You're going to have a baby. You and your wife are going to have a baby. And this baby's going to grow up, and he's going to be a prophet, and he's going to do so many great things. And you would think Zacharias was like, yes, finally, after all these years. But Zacharias doesn't do that. He says, prove it. He says, how can this be? He's like, we're old. I need proof that this is going to happen. And the angel doesn't say, okay, I'll give you proof. The angel says, Zacharias, This is the angel talking. Zacharias, I stand in the presence of God, and what I'm telling you has come directly from him. He says, Zacharias, since you didn't believe, well, you're going to have to deal with something for the next couple months as a punishment. And it's this. All right? What did Zacharias have to deal with because he didn't believe the angel from God? Let me give you some clues. 3 exactly. See if you can figure it out. Already? 3 clues. Here we go. You can find this in the library, but you can't read it. So what was Zacharias' punishment? That was the first clue. All right, clue number 2 for his punishment. Listen close. If you want to hear this, you can't make a sound. Clue number 3. If you say my name, I'll disappear. Did any of you guess silence? That's exactly what happened. For the next several months, Zacharias couldn't say a word. And actually, when he comes out from burning incense, all these people are waiting to hear from him, and all he can do is, he can't talk. And fast forward 9, 10 months later, sure enough, his wife has a baby. And they all look to her and they're like, what's his name? And Elizabeth says, his name is John, and that's not what anybody is expecting. And they turn to Zacharias, who still can't talk. They say, Zacharias, what's his name? And Zacharias says, he doesn't say anything, but he asks for a board. And he writes John on the board. And at that moment, the punishment was over. Zacharias said the baby's name is John, and he had proof now that God had meant it and that they had had a kid. So just like John was a promise from God to Zacharias and Elizabeth, we have a promise from Jesus, who came a long time ago on the first Christmas to show you and to show me how much he loves us. Fold your hands, close your eyes, let me pray for you. Dear Jesus, thank you for this amazing story of Zacharias and Elizabeth and the story of the miracle baby, baby John, who, even though his parents were old and it seemed impossible, you did what was impossible for them. Thank you for the story. Thank you for the story of Christmas and for rescuing us and showing us that you love us. We love you, Jesus. Amen.
Thanks so much to Mr. Nathan for teaching that story. That was awesome. When the angel Gabriel came and told Zacharias that he was going to have a son, that was big news for him. Now, normally in Zacharias' situation, having a son would have been impossible. But nothing is impossible for God. So when Zacharias doubted, Zacharias lost his ability to speak for a while. God took that away from him. And, being disciplined like that, it's not fun. I'm sure we've all experienced being disciplined by our parents or maybe teachers or something. And trust me, I know it's not fun at the time. But when we get disciplined, it helps us to grow, to improve. And even though God did discipline Zacharias, God still kept that promise and gave Zacharias a son. That was an amazing blessing for Zacharias. So I can understand why Zacharias would have still praised God. It was a great gift that God gave to him. Have you guys ever got a gift that was better than you deserve? Boy, I know I have. The way that sometimes we kind of disrespect our parents or disobey them, the way we can kind of be a pain sometimes, which I know I was a lot when I was a kid. I think there were probably plenty of years when for Christmas, I deserved to get, well, pretty much nothing. But my parents always gave me better than I deserved. My parents gave me such good, thoughtful, kind gifts. Because even though I disobeyed, and probably disobeyed a lot, my parents still loved me. And they treated me very, very well. And God is the same way. Even though all throughout history, humans have disobeyed God, God still has shown us love and mercy. It is a very serious thing to sin, to disobey the perfect, good God who made us. But even though we've sinned and we deserve punishment, God has given us so much better than we deserve. And at Christmas, we celebrate when God gave us the greatest gift of all time by sending his own son, Jesus, to earth, so that even though we've sinned, Jesus could live a perfect life and die on a cross to take the punishment that we deserve for our sins, so that any of us who believe in Jesus won't have to face eternal punishment, and we can live forever with God in heaven. Now that is something worth celebrating, and I hope that you will take time this Christmas season to thank God for the amazing gift of his son, Jesus.